Senator Ted Cruz, how are you, sir?
Terrific. How are you doing tonight?
We're doing very, very well. Well, the polls keep getting weird out there in Texas. I guess it depends who you watch. You seem to have a decent lead there. What can you tell us about the race?
Well, I'll tell you, it is. We've got a hell of a fight on our hands. It is the most expensive Senate race in the country. And my opponent, Beto O'Rourke, is the number one Democratic fundraiser in the country. They poured $70 million into this race, which even in the state of Texas is a ton of money. It's the most money any candidate has ever raised in the history of Texas politics. And so we're getting outraised. We're getting outspent 3-1. And the polls have been all over the place. They've been anywhere from a high of about 10 points to they've been down to just a couple of points. And so we're seeing huge turnout, and from our end, we're just running hard and trying to turn out every single conservative in the state of Texas, because I am certain that every single liberal in the state of Texas is going to show up and vote.
And that's the thing. I mean, this guy really anymore, he's not hiding his radicalism, is he?
He is not. I mean, he is running hard left. It's like Bernie Sanders. It's like Elizabeth Warren. I mean, he's embracing socialized medicine. He's the only Democratic Senate nominee in the country to explicitly call for impeaching President Trump. He's embracing open borders. He supports sanctuary cities. When I say open borders, he has literally proposed decriminalizing crossing the border illegally, which is the very definition of open borders. And that's why Hollywood liberals and liberals all over the country are flooding his campaign with cash. You know, where Beto made his big national debut is where he gave this speech praising the NFL protesters during the national anthem. And he said he could think of nothing more American than taking a knee and protesting during the national anthem. And Hollywood swooned. Ellen DeGeneres had him on our show. Stephen Colbert had him on his show. And that they're flooding cash into the race because he is running an Elizabeth Warren-style campaign in the state of Texas.
Tell me about your campaign. Do you have a good ground game, and how is that going?
We do. We've got enormous excitement and enthusiasm on the ground. I'm right now in the middle of a giant double-decker bus. We've been doing a bus tour for 2 weeks, barnstorming the state. We've been every part of the state. I'll tell you, a couple days ago, we were down in the Rio Grande Valley. We were seeing enormous enthusiasm. We had 2,000 people come out in Harlingen. We had 2,000 people come out in Mission. We had over 1,000 people come out in Laredo. And so I'm encouraged that there's a lot of excitement on the ground, and the question is is a turnout question. Every liberal in the state is energized. They're angry. They hate President Trump, and they're showing up in massive, massive numbers. And the big question is, do we break through? Do we break through and get the common sense conservative voters, the voters with just basic conservative values, who aren't living politics, who right now the economy's booming, their job is going well, they're going to church, they're raising their kids, and they're not sitting every night watching Fox News. They're not, I'm sorry to say, listening to Mark Levin. But we need, those West Texas oil field voters whose values are with us to show up and vote. And our big challenge is to get every single one of them to realize if we don't show up and vote, Texas can turn blue. And God forbid we wake up the day after the election and find an Elizabeth Warren-type leftist representing the state of Texas. I think the consequences for Texas and the country would be horrific.
Well, let me say this to the people who are listening, because we are all over Texas. If you haven't voted yet, please do. Make sure you vote on Tuesday, and that's not even enough. You got to bring 4, 5, 6 people with you, or make sure 4, 5, 6 people in your family, your circle of friends, your colleagues, your neighborhood, that they vote. And you got a lot of congressional elections, House elections going on there, too, like our buddy Chip Roy and so forth. So it's very, very important. I mean, if we can't carry you, Ted Cruz, in several of these congressional districts in Texas, we're going to have a hell of a bad election midterm, aren't we?
It could be a bloodbath, and it's very possible that Texas decides control of the House of Representatives, that Texas decides whether Nancy Pelosi is Speaker. And if Pelosi is Speaker, the next day the House begins impeachment proceedings, not just of Donald Trump, but of Brett Kavanaugh also. I mean, I think if they win by being radical and extreme, they'll get more radical and extreme, and they're a good 4 or 5 congressional seats. that are on the edge in Texas. So if we do our job, if we turn conservatives out statewide, we'll win those congressional seats up and down the ballot. If we don't turn conservatives out, we could lose the House in Texas. And so this is a battle. I'm all in. We're going around the clock, but it's going to take, and I'll tell you, for anyone in Texas, you can vote on Election Day, but you can also, tomorrow is the last day of early voting. Let me encourage you, come out and vote on Friday, early vote, and then spend the next 4 days trying to get your friends and family to come out and vote too, because this is all hands on deck, a $70 million assault from the left on the state of Texas, and we've got to stand up and fight it back.
So for you Levinites out there, tomorrow's voting day, okay? And if you happen to miss it, then it's Tuesday. But I agree with the senator here. You got to be your own precinct captain. You got to be an activist. All you Tea Party folks out there, Reaganites, all you Levinites out there, you remember the way it was. You need to really kick butt. You really need to get out there. Now, if people want to contribute to your campaign and defeat Robert Francis O'Rourke, where do they go?
So the website is tedcruz.org. It's tedcruz.org. And I got to tell you, over the last 6 years, every time I've gone on your show, the LEVIN surge as conservatives across the country go to tedcruz.org and contribute has been massive. And this is an instance where we really need it. We are literally being outraised and outspent 3-1. So every dollar that comes in gets immediately deployed to informing and turning out conservatives. And we're at the final moments of the battle right now.
It's an enormously expensive state. You got a lot of metropolitan areas, plus you need to reach all the suburbs and the rural areas. So you're having to throw money in every direction, aren't you?
That is exactly right. And part of it is, as you know, the mainstream media is going to do everything they can to stop us. So every day or two, you get this glowing profile of Beto O'Rourke. Their favorite adjective for him, by the way, is Kennedy-esque. And they just, the profiles are all rainbow.
Would that be Ted Kennedy-esque?
Well, the funny thing is, to them, Kennedy-esque is a positive. You will appreciate this, Mark. So Beto had Joe Kennedy come down to campaign for him twice.
Perfect.
So Joe Kennedy's been down twice in Texas campaigning for him. Both times Beto had Joe Kennedy driving, and I joked it's the first time in history anyone's ever asked a Kennedy to drive.
That's very good. Well, you don't want Beto driving, given his background, now, do you?
It's his.
I mean, somebody had to drive, so I guess it was Joe's turn. What's that?
There is that.
You're very diplomatic. That's very good at the last days of the campaign.
Mark, I got to tell you a joke you're going to like that I've been telling on the trail.
Yes,
it's a joke that's making its rounds on the internet, which is it's an open letter to everyone in the caravan, to the men and women marching north through Mexico, and it's, dear men and women of the caravan, be advised that we have identified homes that are willing to welcome you in, to give you free housing, to give you free health care, to give you free food. And each of these homes is helpfully self-identified with a little black and white sign that says Beto. And
I like
so
that.
If you see one of those signs, just go right up to it, kick down the door, because, look, they don't believe in walls, so don't worry about that door. Just come on in and make yourself at home.
I think that's a great idea. But American citizens must not do that. Just people in the caravan, correct?
Apparently anyone can. Look, if you just want, it's this bizarre notion of socialism, which listen, Beto is running on socialized medicine. He's running on open borders, and we're seeing the far left. We're seeing that's who's resurgent, and it is, as you know, anyone who wants to see the effects of socialism, look no further than Venezuela, one of the wealthiest countries in Latin America, bankrupted by socialism. As you know, my family knows it firsthand. Cuba, Castro and communism utterly destroyed Cuba, and it's incumbent on all of us to make that case, because you've got a lot of young college kids that are being duped. They're being duped by Marxist professors. They're being duped by the media, and they're being duped by, oh, look how sexy Che Guevara is, and look how sexy Beto O'Rourke is. He skateboards. Well, how about instead of that, we focus on, we've got the lowest youth unemployment right now today in 52 years. We've got the lowest African-American unemployment ever recorded, lowest Hispanic unemployment ever recorded. As you know, freedom works, but we got to carry that message.
I know you need to go soon, but also I think this explains things too. O'Rourke supported the embassy in Cuba, which is a genocidal police state. Yet he opposed moving our embassy in Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. You opposed the embassy in Cuba and supported us moving our embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Does that not kind of say it all?
It says it all. You and I were both there, Mark, in Jerusalem when the embassy opened, and it was it was an amazing moment. It was an historic moment. And I will say, listen, O'Rourke has, among other things, the most anti-Israel record of any Democratic Senate nominee in the country. In 2014, when Hamas was raining rockets down on Israel, Beto O'Rourke was one of only 8 members of the House of Representatives to vote against funding Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system. It is a radical and extreme record on Israel. And for all of us who love Israel, electing the most anti-Israel Democratic nominee in the country would be a profound blow both to Israel and to the United States.
All right, so Ted Cruz, it's tedcruz.org, is that correct?
That is it, tedcruz.org.
All right, folks, all over Texas, we're everywhere in Texas. Folks, all over in Texas, we cannot afford to lose Cruz, okay? He is the tip of the point of the conservative movement, certainly in the United States Senate. Absolutely crucial. All you Levinites out there, it's a Levin surge. Let's give them all the support we can at tedcruz.org. And all you Levinites in Texas, don't think somebody else is going to carry the ball here. We got to be engaged. Vote early. Tomorrow's the last day, the senator said. If you miss it, Tuesday. But not just you. 3, 4, 5 other votes. All right, Ted Cruz, we wish you all the best, my friend.
God bless you, my friend. Thank you for everything you do each and every day.
You too. God bless. Little footnote, of course, my stepson works on Ted's staff, but if you think that's why I support Ted Cruz, when I supported him in the Republican primary long before that, you're dead wrong. I support Ted Cruz because I've always supported Ted Cruz. I've known him for a quarter of a century. Don't forget, tedcruz.org, tedcruz.org. This is the Levin Surge. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.